This is the best Storm Sorcerer Tempest Cleric build in Baldur's Gate 3, and I'm going to show you why. We're going to go level by level with a combat tutorial and a list of items. So let's jump straight in, and we begin with Sorcerer. The reason we're starting with Sorcerer is for the simple reason of Constitution saving throw proficiency. And this allows us to add our proficiency bonus to Constitution saving throws, helping us maintain concentration. And while we're starting with Sorcerer to get this, it means we don't have to use a feat to get Resilient Constitution, saving that feat to dual wield. And I'll show you. So we're starting with our Sorcerer, and for your cantrips we are going to take Ray of Frost, have a nice ranged cold based spell. We're going to take Shocking Grasp to have a nice melee lightning based spell. We're going to take Light just because it's a really good utility spell. And we're going to take Minor Illusion for the same reason. Now for your spells at first level, I would take Ice Knife. This is a really good ranged spell. And I'll take Shield. Effectively, this is a reaction spell that allows you to boost your AC to take no damage, and take no damage at all from Magic Missile. Really, really good spell. And of course, Storm Sorcery. This gives us Tempest Magic. After you cast a level 1 spell or higher, you can fly as a bonus action until the end of your turn without receiving opportunity attacks. So this is really good at either getting to high ground, getting out of danger, or closing the gap on someone. So effectively, if an enemy comes up to you, you can Shocking Grasp them and then fly away out of their range and you won't get hit. Really nice way of getting your Sorcerer around the battlefield, but also out of a lot of danger. Okay, for your ability points, we want something akin to this. 8 Strength, 14 Dexterity, 16 Constitution, 10 Intelligence, 10 Wisdom, and 16 Charisma. And this is obviously our Sorcerer spellcasting ability modifier, so bear that in mind. For your proficiencies, take whatever you feel like. And at level 2, we dip over to Cleric. Now, this will put you a little behind the power scaling of some enemies, but it's honestly not too bad early levels. So for this we are going to take Resistance and Guidance, two very, very good utility spells. I think Guidance is one of the best cantrips to have from the start of the game all the way to the end of the game. A 1d4 bonus to ability checks is phenomenal and can really come in clutch. And we're going to take Sacred Flame, just have a different type of damage for Radiant. Again, not really essential. You could pick something else if you wanted to, like Blade Ward, Thermatology, Produce Flame. I would personally stick with Sacred Flame though. And now when it comes to your subclass, of course, the Tempest Domain. This gives us Wrath of the Storm. So as a reaction, strike back an attacking creature, dealing 2 to 16 lightning or thunder damage. Target takes half damage on a successful saving throw. Really, really powerful. It also, if you wanted to, means you could take martial weapons and heavy armor, so you could really tank yourself up if you wanted to be a more frontline spellcaster, melee-based character. But, more importantly, Thunder Wave. One of the most amazing spells, in my opinion, to have early levels. Really nice way of dealing with enemies, because you can just throw them off of cliffs and whatnot. For your DT, pick whoever you feel like. And then for your spell slot here, the only option we have, Create or Destroy Water. This is key, because you're going to create water, and then we're going to electrify it, and that's going to maximize as much damage as possible. Okay, at level 3 we're sticking with Cleric to level 2. This unlocks our Channel Divinity charge. And our Channel Divinity for the Tempest Cleric is Destructive Wrath. When you roll thunder or lightning damage, you can use your Channel Divinity to maximize the damage instead. Perfect. It's such a powerful ability this, because if you can maximize your highest level spells, you're going to be dealing an insane amount of damage to enemies. And we'll show you this in play when we get to the combat tutorial. Now at this point you get one more spell slot, and I'll just take Healing Word just for the utility of being able to do a heal if you need to. You probably won't want to use this too often though. And then from here on out we take Sorcerer all the way to level 10. So at level 4 we are Sorcerer level 2, and this is where we unlock our ability to create sorcery points and to create spell slots. And these are interchangeable. You can use spell slots to make sorcery points, and sorcery points to make spell slots. We also gain 2 passives with our Metamagic. Now before that, we do have our spells, and we're going to take Mage Armor. This basically bumps your dexterity or your armor class up to 13 plus your dexterity. So ours would be 15 because we have a +2 thanks to our 14 dex. And then for your Metamagic, we're going to do Distance Spell. This will increase the spell range by 50%, meaning that we can stay further at the back and stay protected. But more importantly, Twin Spell. So spells that only target one creature can target an additional creature. This is perfect because it means you could target 2 people with Ray of Frost, 2 people with Shocking Grasp if you're stuck in melee. Lots of really, really good options. Okay, level 5 brings us to Sorcerer level 3, and we have one more spell we can now choose, and for this we're going to take Witch Bolt. Link yourself to a target with a bolt of lightning, and you do an additional 1 to 12 lightning damage each turn by activating it. So this is concentration based, which is where our constitution, this is concentration based, which is where our constitution proficiency comes in handy. And the most important thing we need here is Metamagic Quickened Spell. Effectively, we can spend 3 sorcery points to cast a spell as a bonus action instead of a main action. And how this is key for this build is you quicken spell, create water, and then hit people who are wet from that water with the biggest amount of lightning damage you can. Okay, level 6 brings us to Sorcerer level 4 and our first feat. Now before that we do have a cantrip, and for this we're going to take Mage Hat. And for a spell I would highly recommend taking Mirror Image. This is a very nice way of bumping up your AC. You effectively for 10 turns will create 3 duplicates of yourself, each one adding a +3 to your armor class. Every time you're hit, you lose 1 duplicate and your AC will reduce by the set amount. So once you cast a spell, you have a +9 because 3 armor class by 3 duplicates. If you get hit, you lose a duplicate and you go to a +6. Hit again, you go down to 1 duplicate and you only get +3. And effectively, once you've been hit 4 times, you'll lose all your duplicates. But it's a really nice way of just buffing yourself up. And for your feat, we are going to go with the Dual Wielder. So you can use 2 weapon fighting, even if your weapons aren't light, and you gain a +1 bonus to armor class while wielding a melee weapon in each hand. You cannot dual wield heavy weapons. But what this means is that we can dual wield 2 staffs, and I have a very good combination here that is going to allow you to do a lot of maximum damage, and I'll show you why. Okay, level 7, we are now at level 5 Sorcerer, and we have those level 4 spell slots. So, first thing we're going to take is Lightning Bolt. Call forth a blast of lightning that hits all creatures in the line of eruption. This is insane. If you can line this up so you hit a whole row of enemies, you will do an incredible amount of damage. It's very, very powerful. Level 8, and we are at Sorcerer level 6, and this is where we get a massive power spike going into Act 3, perhaps even the end of Act 2. But we get Heart of the Storm. When you cast a spell of level 1 or higher, deals lightning or thunder damage, you cause a small local storm. All enemies within 6 meters take 3 lightning damage or 3 thunder damage. So effectively this is a nice way of dealing damage to an enemy and then having that damage spike off to other people. We also get a Heart of the Storm resistance. You're resistant to lightning and thunder damage. Now for a spell here, I would highly recommend taking Misty Step. This will just help you traverse the battlefield a bit better. Pairing this with your Tempest Flight. Ideally you want to use that as much as possible because it is a bonus action and won't cost a spell slot. But if you really need to use an action to set yourself up to get to higher ground, get out of danger, whatever, Misty Step is the way forward. Level 9 brings us to Sorcerer level 7, and we have unlocked those 5th level spell slots. And the first spell we're going to take from here is Ice Storm. 6 to 40 damage. It is a 2d8 bludgeoning and a 4d6 cold. This is amazing because ice will fall from this ground, strike the ground, and it'll be a huge slippery surface. And this is amazing for getting enemies to fall over. And then if you have a companion that has like a fireball or whatever to melt the ice, you'll then have a massive puddle of water, and alas, hit it with lightning and you've got a bunch of electrified ground. Okay, level 10 brings us to Sorcerer level 8 and our next feat. Before that we do have one spell to choose from, and at this point it's kind of your own free choice. I would personally take something like False Life to get temporary hit points, Knock to be able to open some locks. Now for your feat, we're going to take the ASI, and we're going to bump our Charisma up to 18. Okay, level 11, we are now Sorcerer level 9, and this gives us our 6th level spell slots. This is why we only take the Cleric to level 2. We just want to get that Destructive Wrath, and then we can full out with the spell slots for Sorcerer. And the first choice here is of course Cone of Cold. This pairs really nicely with our Thunder, Lightning, Water type thing. And it's a big cone of damage doing between 8 to 64, and it will hit a lot of people if you can set this up properly. And even if they save, they still take half damage, so it's a nice spell to have at higher levels. And finally, our final level brings us to Sorcerer level 10. We get a new cantrip, a new spell, and a new passive. So, for a cantrip, you can really take anything. I personally like Bone Chill, just because I like the target having disadvantage on attack rolls and not being able to heal. For a spell, now we have very limited high level spells. We only have one 5th level. But we have the ability to have extra higher level spell slots for free thanks to our gear setup, and I'll show you how that works. But for now, for this level here, I would probably take something like Enhance Ability or Blindness, basically a small ability you can use. You might be tempted with a Counterspell, and if your Sorcerer is your only spellcaster, then I would recommend taking Counterspell. But ideally, you want to try and save as many of your spell slots as possible to deal the maximum lightning damage you can. And for your Metamagic, we're going to take Heightened Spell. So targets of spells that require saving throws have disadvantage on their first saving throw, which means you could do a Heightened Spell, you could do your Cone of Cold, and then you could strike, and they would have disadvantage on that saving throw to take half damage, enhancing your chance of doing the maximum damage to the enemy. Okay, so that was our level by level. Let's go over our gear. Now I'm using a Diadem of Arcane Synergy. This, we inflict a condition, and we will inflict a lot of reverberation. We gain Arcane Synergy for 2 rounds. Now, there is also Birthright, and arguably this is better. You get +2 to your Charisma, so this would bump us up to a 20, as you can see on the side. However, I think it's kind of ugly, so I'm not using it. But theoretically, you probably should use Birthright. For a robe, we're using the Weave Mother's Cloak, so during combat, once per turn, the cloak grants the wearer water layer protection until we take damage. And this pairs very nicely with the Weave Mother's Robe, so we get temperature adjustment, we have resistance to fire and cold damage. We also get a free use of Create or Destroy Water, Armor class +1, but more importantly, Watery Rejuvenation. If the wearer is standing on the water surface at the start of their turn, they heal 1 to 4 hit points. And this ability also works outside of combat. So if you can find water and you need a little bit of healing and you stand in it, you will regain hit points for doing nothing. Very, very good robe. Nice way of saving your healing spells on your sorcerer or your potions, something like that. We can use the Boots of Genial Striding. This basically means we don't have this means we're not impeded by difficult terrain, so our movement speed is fine. We're going to use the Gloves of Belligerent Skies. So, when we deal thunder, lightning, or radiant damage, the only 3 types of damage we deal, we inflict 2 turns of reverberation, and this will build up very quickly. The Snowburst Ring, so when we deal cold damage, we'll also create a 4.5 circle of ice around the target. This works really well if you hit someone with a Ray of Frost, the ice goes around them, and then more chance of them if they need to run to you, slipping over and not being able to move that turn. The Strange Conduit Ring. As I close everything, the Strange Conduit Ring. While concentrating on a spell, our weapon attacks deal an additional 1 to 4 psychic damage. Not the most helpful of rings, because the chances of us being in melee are very low, but this does pair very nicely with the cloak, and if you do need to hit something with your staff, at least you'll do a little bit more damage. With the Necklace of Elemental Augmentation, so whenever one of your cantrips deals acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage, add your spellcasting modifier to the damage dealt. Nice way of just getting a +4 or +5 if you're using Birthright to your damage with your cantrips. And finally, our staffs, we are using Marker Shear. So, Arcane Enchantment, getting +1 bonus to spell save DC and spell attack rolls. We get Kreska's Favour, but more importantly, Arcane Battery. Alleviate the arcane burden of spellcasting with the power of this staff. The next spell you cast doesn't cost a spell slot, which means you get a free use of a spell slot of any level, meaning if you have a level 5 spell slot, you can trigger this and you will get a free use of a level 5 spell slot, meaning we now have 2 of them. But more importantly, by dual wielding, we can use the Staff of Spell Power. This is exactly the same as Marker Share, as you can see, except we don't get Kreska's Favour, but we do get Arcane Battery again, which now means we have 2 uses of this, and they do stack, so you do get both. So that was my build guide. Let's go find some combat and test this out. Okay, once you've left camp, the first thing you're going to want to do is cast Mage Armor. Now, you can upscale this if you want to. There is literally no point. So just do it at level 1. And now, thanks to all our gear and stuff, you will see our armor class is 17. Not too bad for a sorcerer. So let's go pick a fight and we'll show you this in action. Okay, you can see we're in the fight. Now, the first thing we are going to do, and you should do this every single combat, is we're going to come over to our Quicken spell, and we want to do Create or Destroy Water. Now we're going to start by creating water, and you want to place it somewhere that's going to make as much possible wet. So let's go here. You will see the range is huge, and this has built up our Arcane Synergy because they have the wet status. And from here, we are going to do our spell slots. Now, as you can see, we have 1 6th level spell slot. However, thanks to our staffs, if we turn on Arcane Battery, you'll see our spell goes orange. This means it's now a free spell slot, and we can really do some damage with this. So let's do Cool Lightning. We're going to upcast it to the highest level possible, and we're going to place it just here to get all 3 people. And we have the ability to do our Destructive Wrath thanks to our 2nd level Cleric ability, and this will maximize our damage. So as you can see, a huge amount. We absolutely melted half of them, and they've only got 12 health left. And they've also got Reverberation. Now, this whole water is now electrified, so if they run through it, they will become electrified as well. But because we're standing in the puddle, if we were to take damage, we would gain some health back. And there you go, see, electrocuted as a status. And as a reaction, we can do our Wrath of the Storm. So again, let's do lightning, because they're already wet. And there you go, a huge 16 damage. Now obviously when you do this build yourself, be more careful. I'm just throwing out the damage because we can. There you go, another 1 damage thanks to the electrocution. Now what we can also do is we can turn on our other Arcane Battery, thanks to having a 2nd staff that allows it. And for this one we can do a Lightning Bolt. If we upcast this, it'll be 11 to 66 damage. And effectively this spell works really well because you can cast it in a straight line. So if you have a row of enemies, you could hit them all and do an insane amount of damage. We are just going to target one though, just to show you off just how big the damage output can be. And there you go, you'll see we did 86 damage. And what's really good, as you can see, we still have some really high spell slots left. We've only used 1 level 1, and that's to cast Mage Armor. What we can also do, come back in here with a Quicken spell if we wanted to, and we could do another Lightning Bolt if we choose to. We're just going to do it at level 3, because I just want to show off just how much damage it can do when there's water and the enemies are wet at a low spell slot. And there you go, 64 damage. So even your low end spell slots, if enemies are wet, are going to throw out an insane amount of damage. And there you go, absolutely melted. And because of our defensive capabilities, you can use a shield, and we take no damage. Now if we were to come and stand in the puddle here, on our next round we will heal up. For now, we have enemies to kill. And thanks to our abilities, if we were to do a Ray of Frost, I need to get up to them though, so let's do this another route. Let's Misty Step up. And we'll just Misty Step to, let's say, here. There we go. What we can do, especially lower levels, is a Thunder Wave. We're going to do it at second level, or sorry, first level. And ideally, this should be able to throw enemies away. Just like that. Now if the enemy was here, and you could throw them off into the water, then it'd be nice and simple. Alas, we don't have that option because they were facing the wrong way. But lower levels, if you have a cliff or something, you would be sacrificing the loot. It's a really quick and easy way to dwindle down the fight. And you see the enemy still has reverberation, so if we were to come in here and we'll do a little Ray of Frost. Can we see? We can if we come here. Now this should trigger our ring. And as you can see, they now have a huge amount of ice because we melted all this. And as I was saying before, if you have a character that has a Firebolt, for example, a Shadowheart, to melt this and turn it into water, you can continually maximize your damage by making characters wet, thanks to the floor and being able to melt ice. And if you really wanted to, we could quicken spell, and we have another chance of doing a spell as a bonus action, and this time we'll just do a very simple level 2 Witch Bolt. Just like that. Again, not the highest of damage, but it is concentration, we can reapply it, and we've re-electrified the floor. Meaning if you can set this up and have a puddle everywhere, the chances of you maximizing damage, making melee characters have to walk, incredibly high. And all the while, we can just stand in it because we are resistant. And we can continue our defensive capabilities with the shield. And the good thing about Witch Bolt is you can very simply just reapply it by activating it. And there you go, another 8 damage. And the final one, hopefully. And there we go. And as I was saying, it doesn't just work in combat. If we stand here, and there you go, we put it into turn-based, and as you can see, you can cheese the system by effectively, if you just keep ending your turn while in turn-based, while stood in the puddle, you will heal up. It is a bit long, and it is a bit tedious, but it can be a lifesaver if you're out of potions, don't want to use any spell slots for healing. You can just keep doing this until you have all your health back. So that has been my Storm Sorcerer Tempest Cleric build. And if we just come out of turn base, you will see through that entire fight we used our Channel Divinity, we used all our sorcery points just because I was showing them off, but we still have a level 6, 2 level 5s, 3 level 4s when it comes to spell slots. Now please bear in mind, if you were to short rest, like such, you don't get your spell slots back, you don't get your sorcery points back, but you do get your Channel Divinity back. So please bear that in mind. But this build is very, very good, especially against bosses. It's a really simple way of just dwindling down enemies, because if you can land a cool lightning and then just keep reapplying it, that's only 1 spell slot. Same with Witch Bolt, if you can cast that at 6th level and then keep reapplying it, that's just 1 spell slot. You can make this go really, really far with a lot of damage. So I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have, please drop the episode a like, it helps me amazingly. Let me know what you would do differently about this build. If you're new and you haven't subscribed, but you'd like to, that'd be amazing, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.